Alright, party people, let's look at how to classify a polynomial. Alright, so what is a polynomial? Let's start there. Polynomial is an expression of two or more algebraic terms. Okay, so an expression of two or more algebraic terms. Now, what is a term? Okay, a term is a variable, a term is a number, or a term is a combination of a variable and a number. Okay, so a term is a variable, a term is a number, or a combination of both. So here's a constant, here's a combination of a number and a variable, and then here is a combination of a number and a variable. Now let's go back and let's review like terms, right? Like terms are the same variable raised to the same power. So these are not like terms because this is an x to the first power, this is an x squared. Alright, so we cannot combine these two. Those are separate terms. Those are all three separate terms. So this would be three terms. Alright, now, standard form of a polynomial. The standard form of a polynomial contains one variable, is written in alpha order, with the terms in the order from the greatest exponent to the least exponent. Alright, so we're going to write them from greatest to least. Write them from greatest to least in exponents. When written in standard form, the coefficient of the first term is what we call the leading coefficient. The leading coefficient. So the leading coefficient is the coefficient in front of the first term. Now, it's got to be in standard form to be able to identify the leading coefficient. Now, classify polynomials based on the number of terms. Okay, so if it has one term, we would call that a monomial. Mono means one. So this 5x is just one term. If it had two terms, 2x plus 7, okay, again, terms are broken up by operation symbols, so this plus sign tells me that this 2x is a term and the 7 is a term. If it's got two terms, we call that a binomial. And if it's got three terms, we call that a trinomial. And then four or more, we call that a polynomial. Polynomial. Some polynomials have special names based on their degree and the number of terms they have. Okay, we'll get into more of that later on. Alright, but we have four terms here, 3x squared, 2x squared, x to the first power. Okay, we just don't write it. It's understood. And then 4. Okay. Now, let's talk about polynomials based on degrees. The degree of the polynomial is the degree of the term with the highest degree. Alright, so the degree of the polynomial is the degree of the term with the highest degree. So the greatest exponent, in other words, is what I'm saying. The greatest exponent is the degree of the polynomial. So in this case, we have a constant, right? I don't see a variable here. Now, this is x to the 0 power. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. We don't write it. So x to the 0 power is just 1. We don't write it. That's why it's not there. So a constant is to the degree of 0. Linear is to the degree of the first. Right? We don't write that either. It's understood. That's x to the first power, degree of 1, because that's my greatest exponent. Greatest exponent here is x squared. So that is a degree of 2. We call that a quadratic. A quadratic is x squared. A cubic is to the third power. The degree here is 3 because that's the biggest exponent you see. So the third power is a cubic. The fourth power is what we call a quartic. And then the fifth power and more is just to the 5th degree. Alright, so these are the special names that we have. And then as we get above that, it's just to that number degree. Now the degree again is the highest exponent you see. So in this case it has a degree of 4. It has a degree of 4.